Alright, so we're on lesson 3, Pastoral Epistles. This week we're hitting 1 Timothy chapter 3, verses 1 through 16. Let's move right along. Next week we're not here.
Okay.
So we're off for Valentine's Day weekend. So, yeah. Just throwing that out there. Want to have anybody like, where is everyone? Alright, so we're going to tackle the first half of this, which is verses 1 through 7. And verse 1 says, "This is a true saying, if a man desire the office of a bishop, he desireth a good work." Verse 2, "A bishop then must be blameless, the husband of one wife, vigilant, sober, of good behavior, given to hospitality, apt to teach." Verse 3 says, "Not given to wine, no striker, not greedy of filthy lucre, but patient, but not a brawler, not covetous. One that ruleth well his own house, having his children in subjection with all gravity. For if a man know not how to rule his own house, how shall he take care of the church of God?
I think that's him.
Not a novice, lest being lifted up with pride he fall into the condemnation of the devil. Moreover, he must have a good report of them which are without, lest he fall into the reproach and the snare of the devil."
Yeah, he just not good. Yeah.
No?
Also,
Just kidding!
I know I saw that.
Alright, so in verse 1, basically we're looking at, if a man desires the office of a bishop, desires a good work. And set one apart for special service in the kingdom of God is praiseworthy. Okay? It is not inherently wrong to desire an office that exploits a Christian cause. It would be unethical to actively seek the office, especially through deeds. That's pretty much common sense. Now, a person should seek the work, not the honor of the office. Should be driven by the work, the goal of the work, the outcome of the work, but not the honor that would come from it. The office should also find the man, not the man the office. Okay. Now, the verse commends properly motivated aspirations to serve in a leadership capacity. Okay, so these are all healthy things. Typically today, we are surrounded by many religious organizations. They tend to use Bible designations such as overseer, bishop, presbyter, elder, pastor. It's not easy to keep the local church in view when we hear these types of terms. Okay? And elaborate hierarchical structures did not exist in Paul's day. Okay, they were much more simpler. All right. In Scripture, the terms overseer and bishop designate the same person or office and come from the Greek word episkopos. Okay. And that literally means to look upon as to care for. Presbyteros, elder, and episkopos, bishop, found in Titus 1, 5, and 7, also seem to speak of the same office. So they're one and the same typically, it looks like. Today, the church would use these biblical offices with perhaps slightly differing ranges of responsibility and authority then. The popular term pastor, appointment, or shepherd, one who tends flocks and herds, it's used metaphorically only once in the New Testament. Only one time. We find that in Ephesians 4 and 11. Okay. So as much as we see that actually used these days, and as common and widespread it is, it's only mentioned once in the entire New Testament.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing, though. It seems to be the same person described in 1 Peter 5, 1 through 2, which says the elder, or presbyteros, is to feed or tend like a shepherd the flock of God under his care. Okay. Now in verse 2, those who serve in positions of ministry with responsibility and authority are to conduct their affairs with the highest degree of integrity, right? Lest any feel that the deportment and lifestyle are left totally to individual discretion or tastes. This passage submits a list of qualifications that those serving in ministerial roles should actually meet. Okay, so there are some very itemized and stringent qualifications and guidance, focal points, if you will, to keep you in line. First one we find is blameless. Would indicate that the overseer should be above reproach, not liable to serious, justifiable criticism. All right. You should be a person where you can publicly stand before any person or crowd and not be held liable for any type of attack in a way.
Or negative
Yeah.
vibes.
I mean, it's one thing when somebody tries to attack your credibility and it's false, which will eventually always be found out. But it's another thing when you've actually committed the offense and you've given them the actual ammunition to throw at you. Second one would be husband of one wife. Typically means a bishop should commit himself to his wife for life. It does not mean he has to be married, for Paul himself does not, but that he can only have one companion. All right? So it's not a polygamous type relationship here. Some commentators actually interpret it merely to forbid polygamy or having more than one wife at a time. The objection to taking this meaning is that the apostle would hardly have specified that as a prerequisite or requisite for the presbytery, which we know to have been fulfilled by all the Christians of whatever. Basically, Paul's already under the assumption that you have one wife. Okay, so it's not something that he's saying, okay, you can't have 5, you should already just have 1. But that 1 you should keep for life. So cherish that wife for life. Next one would be vigilant. It's best translated temperate or sober in thought. Okay. Circumspect, although of course a pastor must be watchful as he oversees the flock. So you should always be vigilant. There's really no other word to really say. You just need to be mindful and word I'm looking for, aware would be a good one. Don't be oblivious to things going on around you, people or circumstances and situations. Not just with yourself, but obviously your people that you have underneath you that you're leading pretty much. Sober means self-controlled or serious-minded. Such an attribute is imperative in making sound judgments. Okay? People who fly off the handle and flip out are not obviously going to make sound judgments. They're going to shoot from the hip, be very emotional. Knee-jerk would be a good term for that. Something happens and they just completely react, and I would say majority of the time overreact as a result of that. Instead of saying, let's think about that. Pull back, take the emotion out of the situation. You don't have to make a decision right there most of the times. I mean, you have to remember who's in control of the situation. You don't let someone else push you into making a decision saying that they're in control of the situation when they're coming to you for an answer.
Right.
So if they were actually in control of the situation, they wouldn't need you to make decisions.
Right.
All right, so you having to make that decision, you're already in control. So use it to your advantage. Don't always make that snap judgment like that. If they want to have an answer, they have to wait. If they don't like it, well, you know, that's why they're not leaving and you are. Okay, so one way to look at it, all right? Because if they were in that position, they probably would have made that knee-jerk reaction decision. That's not good.
Right.
So don't always feel pressured or pushed or anything like that. Hospitality, I'm sorry, let me back up, of good behavior. Good behavior. It's a free rendering of cosmois, translated modest. The basic meaning is orderly, suggesting the idea of respectability or being honorable. Okay? Being good behavior, honorable. Hospitality is commanded here, as well in Titus 1:8 and 1 Peter 4:9. Literally translated, loving strangers. Okay, hospitality.
What was the scripture for the one you read off?
For that particular one, for hospitality,
Gotcha.
it'd be Titus 1:8 and 1 Peter 4:9.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Now, verse 3. No one can be a spiritual example and a wine-bibber at the same time. Okay. Christians in general, Christian leaders in particular, should abstain totally from intoxicating beverages. All right. No casual drinking, no social drinking, no. Just had one with fill in the blank. Zilch, none, zero. Yeah. Can't say any other way.
After you're saved, they must result in zero.
Yes. Striker is one who loses control of his temper and to the point of lashing out in physical force. Pugnacious or quarrelsome type person. Is always looking for a fight, looking for an issue, an argument, just very combative attitude. Yeah, those kind of people you should be leery of in general, let alone having anything to do with them in particular.
Right.
Greedy, a filthy lucre, means desirous of base gain. Okay. It's the type of person using base and unjustifiable methods to raise and increase revenues, trading or trafficking. Basically, what would be honorable in the secular world or a character would be base and dishonorable in a bishop. So what might be acceptable in the outside world, okay, doesn't mean it would be necessarily the practices of a bishop. Okay. Such weakness could tempt them to be to actually misappropriate church funds or take up means of livelihood that would be less than proper. Good example, owning a bar. Okay, makes a lot of money out there, but and owning your own business is not wrong, but that type of business would not be something you'd expect a bishop of the church to have.
Yeah, right.
So that might be an example.
I tried.
Just for a quick, you know.
I slowly just press out.
I turned it into a paid Bible study room. Good preaching in there.
Bible study group with nightly communion.
Yeah.
Communion often.
That's what it is. Communion often. We have mass communion. Yeah, right.
You must be Catholic.
Yeah, I was kind of drawing from that, but you called me out on it. All right. A bishop should not also be a brawler, one who's a fighter, combatant, contentious. Should not be covetous, literally not a lover of money. If you see someone consistently driven by money, their decisions are focused on money, it's a constant draw. I mean, you probably have seen this before, where it's just, you know, they would not make decisions in any other way but how it affects finances. Works well. But I'm sure you've all seen individuals maybe like that,
Yes.
somewhere, some point where they may be good Christians. I'm not trying to take away from them, but it just seems a lot of their decisions are focused on money or driven by money in some way. They will not look at it as, well, how is the spiritual benefit to that? They'll look at it more as, what's my bottom line?
Yes.
What's the P&L going to be like?
What do I get out of it?
If I make that investment, what do I get out of it? Or something like that. So somehow driven monetarily. It's not good. Now, a bishop in verse 4 is also to rule his own house well. Loving, compassionate leadership rather than dominating dictatorship is what the Bible actually teaches. Okay. To rule or preside over. The success of a leader's work in the ministry is often directly related to the success of the husband and the father. Okay. His children at home should be in submission to parental authority, lest his sons in the faith turn out like his sons in the family. They should be subject with all gravity. Gravity is the same word translated as honesty. Okay, so they should be honest and respectful. Okay. Now in verse 5, this verse asks a question that naturally follows the foregoing passage. The idea is that a man may not confidently guide the household of God if he cannot manage well his own household. The principles of godly government should be manifest in his home before he receives responsibility of overseeing an actual church. Okay? Because what he demonstrates in his own family, he's going to then also put forth into a church, a congregation. Okay? And that same congregation, having said that, will look to his model of a family as to how they lived. Okay? Because I can also tell you that the standard that the pastor and his family, not just the pastor, it has to be, it's a complete unit, okay? The level that he demonstrates, if he sets the bar on a scale of 1 to 10 at a 9, okay, the congregation will never hit a 9 or a 10, never. It will never happen, okay, as a whole. They will, however, possibly hit a level 7, okay, a level 8 even. But they'll never quite be where, because he should be constantly growing.
Right.
But they should also be constantly striving to follow that example as well as Jesus, okay? But he should be the physical model that they can see physically, okay? As well as giving him a spiritual outline, which is derived as being more Christ-like. Okay? But now you can also, for that same token, if he has a dysfunctional family, and yet he's trying to set a level and live a certain way, it's going to be one, a hindrance on him.
Oh, yes.
Okay, absolutely. Two, the congregation will notice, okay, and they will use it as a crutch. Okay, absolutely. Because what they'll, in their mind, will say is, well, the pastor's wife does it.
Right.
Why shouldn't I? Or the pastor's kids are like that. Why wouldn't mine be like that? What's wrong with his? Why can't, you know, why are you condemning mine when these leaders? I mean, come on, seriously.
Yeah, right.
So, really have. I'm not saying that he has to keep him in like a dictatorship type role, like the Bible's saying, but they have to be in an orderly. They have to be respectful, honest, and forthright. You know, they should always be striving to hit that next level. But again, if he sets a bar at 9, if he sets a bar at 5, where do you really expect the congregation to hit? At the highest level. Which means you're still going to have those who are way behind, okay, who will just never grow either. There's no reason to.
Right.
The upward growth that you set, I mean, if I set a nice long growth pattern at an 8, say, or a 7 or 9 or whatever, someone who's coming in at a 0 and a 1 has a lot of room to grow potentially, okay? And that's what you want, that healthiness like that. But if I've got a very low bar, you're not going to be very healthy because you're not going to grow very much. So how can you, At the same token, how can a pastor be upset, frustrated, when he's like, I don't understand, my church won't grow. I don't understand, my congregation has no fire. I don't understand my congregation. Fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Look at your own level, where you're at. Well, then maybe you might understand.
Right.
Yeah, first evaluate the head and then work your way down. Verse 6, a novice denotes someone who is a recent convert or a neophyte. A person without experience will likely make mistakes in matters that are calling for mature judgment. Okay? Such a person is more subject to pride after moments of success. All right, that's true. The Greek term for lifted up is tufu. If I pronounce that right, it's a T-U-P-H-O-O. Tufu, tofu, something like that. Yeah. Not tofu, though. Not to be mistaken with, yeah. Which means to raise a smoke or smolder. All right. It conjures up the idea of a beclouded or stupid state of mind as a result of pride. Okay. The condemnation of the devil is a result of pride. Therefore, the neophyte's pride will place him under the same sentence. For this reason, we must be careful when selecting people to fill offices of responsibility. Quick elevation of a novice to prominence may be too much for him to handle. Okay. You don't want somebody who obviously is too new, but then for the same token also, someone who has been around for a while. Okay, that doesn't necessarily mean they're not subject to the same thing. They may have been in church for 10 years. That doesn't mean that they would not react the same way. It's all maturity level.
Right.
Okay? You may be in church 10 years, it's still not mature. You may be in church 10 years, and still not even know how to handle it. You may have someone who came into church 4 years ago, who is ready for that responsibility, that is much more mature than that person who's been there for 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, so you really have to evaluate very carefully. You can just go by based on, well, you've been there quite a while. Yeah, well, it doesn't mean all that much. I mean, yes, you take that into consideration, but it shouldn't be one of the primary deciding factors. Look at their example, look at how they interact, look at their maturity level, start them off with a little bit, see what happens.
Right.
Let them chew just a little, instead of giving them a whole plate of steak and see if he chokes. All right, verse 7. Those outside the church deserve a model of the Christian lifestyle. Okay, it's your witness. Regardless of how well a minister is respected, okay, among his own company, relationships with outsiders must make a positive impact for the evangelistic efforts of the church. Get tongue-tied already. Or they will be hindered. Okay, Satan is the accuser of the brethren, and he will heap reproach upon those who offend, revealing every flaw of the world, destroy the testimony of God's servants. Okay, you are under a magnifying glass, a microscope, if you will. Just the fact that you have the word or term Christian attached to you, okay, is enough for anyone in the secular world to say, watch him. Okay.
Yep.
And even if you don't have that known about you, they probably, more than likely, at least it should have taken notice of you in some way, shape, or form. He doesn't drink. He doesn't go out to the bar happy hour. When we have those promotions at the office on Friday, he's never there, never goes. He doesn't curse either. What is up with that guy?
Right.
Maybe it should begin some of the thought process at the very minimum. Okay, if you haven't, then there's got to be a problem somewhere. You're associating too closely to the world in some way. You need to reevaluate.
And drinking.
Yeah. Might be a good start right there. Yeah. All right. With the next section of verses on chapter 3 is going to be verses 8 through 12. Okay. 8 through 13, I should say. We'll chew off 8 through 12 here first. All right, verses 8 through 12. find, likewise, must the deacons be grave, not double-tongued, not given to much wine, not greedy of filthy lucre, holding the mystery of the faith in pure conscience. And let these also first be proved. Then let them use the office of a deacon, being found blameless. Okay. Even so, must their wives be grave, not slanderers, sober, faithful in all things. Let the deacons be the husbands of one wife, ruling their children and their house as well, their own house as well. All right. Some of these we have touched on in some of the previous verses, where it kind of elaborated a little. Okay. In verse 8, we find the office of a deacon is discussed here seems to be a distinct position within the church. The duties and responsibilities do not seem to be clearly defined. All right. Many commentators see the men chosen to serve tables in Acts 6 as deacons. All right. Deacon actually comes from the word diakonos, servant or attendant, which in turn comes from diako, hasten after, like a runner. In many churches today, deacons' roles are clear-cut and explicitly defined. All right. They most often fulfill the responsibilities of helpers in the ministry as well as the congregation. In some ways, their duties are actually entailed to whatever designations the pastor just simply outlines. Okay. In others, they serve as a standing board with their roles spelled out in the church constitution. The deacons in Timothy's day are generally considered to have been ministerial assistants, both spiritual and physical duties. Right, so they seem to be pretty much like a trainee / catch-all / helper / assistant pretty broad general definition. Basically, if something was needed in the church, grab a deacon. Plug them in the hole and give them the role. Now in verse 9 we find deacons must hold the mystery of the faith in a pure conscience. Okay. Vincent describes mystery as truth which was kept hidden from the world until revealed at the appointed time, which is a secret to ordinary eyes, but is made known by divine revelation. All right. So the words the faith refer to the body of beliefs held by the Christian community as given by Christ and the apostles. Embracing the faith with a pure conscience is the meshing of faith with ethics. All right. In verse 10, again the Bible reiterates the requirement of proven leadership. Let these also first be proved. All right. Is another way of saying, don't install a novice. So you have another flag. Do not install a novice. Do not install a trainee or somebody, or I should say trainee, but someone who is new to the faith or just being introduced to a lot of things, doesn't have a mature sound judgment, hasn't proven themselves. Okay, you want somebody who's going to get destroyed by pride and everything else right away. This verse does not refer to a probationary period, but to an intensive inquiry into the character and worthiness of the individual. All right. Once this is accomplished, then the person can be installed and serve with distinction in the office, having been found irreproachable. Okay, so they have to have some type of a track record going here. Yeah. When they have a proven track record, they've proven themselves consistent, they've shown a nice level head, they're doing well spiritually, they're growing. Yeah, I think you got somebody you can really tap into at that point. Okay. Mind you, they're not going to be perfect, because nobody is. But you see somebody who is growing and shows some maturity. Now, in verse 11, the wife of the leader must meet certain qualifications also. Okay, this kind of goes back to what I was alluding to also with a pastor's family previously. It can also go with just a leader in general, because they should be in training of some kind to a next step or higher level, elevated office. Okay, they should be constantly growing. Focusing on the omission of the possessive pronoun there, some commentators actually maintain that this verse actually mentions a third class of officers in the church, not merely the wives, quotations, okay, of the overseers and deacons. Most other translations render, as they would be rendered in the King James Version or the New International Version. Okay. The word used here is goon, not G-O-O-N, but G-U-N-E.
I'm telling.
You could say your wife is a goon. Dad caught that. Weird game. Glad we don't have wives here right now.
It's biblical.
Yes. Again, the word here used here is goon, which can mean women or wives depending on the context. It seems perfectly natural after mentioning two classes of church officers to proceed with a word to their wives. Okay, so they're addressing all this at the leadership and the males and everything, and then it's like, well, why shouldn't we also include?
Right.
I mean, after all, it's a team. It's an effort.
And it said that. Yeah.
They do, in fact, participate in their husband's work in a supportive way, and whose lives reflect directly on their reputation as officers. And again, like I was going back to the pastor's wives, this is also the leadership. They look at the family, okay? They see the wife going wacky or something. Well, what do you think that does to his credibility? She's like totally goes off on a binge, and he's like, "Oh, honey," and everybody else going, "Ooh." It's not real good. I mean, on several levels with it. Verse 12, we see the passage returns to specific qualifications for church leaders, again citing the rule of one wife. No polygamy. Okay. No.
One's enough.
Wow, he always singled out with that or something. That's something going.
He's the one that owns the bar.
This also speaks to divorce, remarry, divorce, remarry, divorce, remarry.
Okay.
Consistent track pattern of wife for life.
Yep.
I'm not saying, I'll get on a little bit of a side topic here. I'm not saying also, though, that you can't have a couple, all right? It's kind of getting a little off the beaten path, but not completely. Where, well, before I get charged with anything here, okay, God does not condone divorce.
Exactly.
Okay. Moses gave the law decreeing elements of the divorce through the hardness of the people's hearts.
Yes.
Okay, that being said, all right, that's out of the way now. All right. That is not also to say, though, that you cannot have a married couple where a member of that married couple could actually become the victim.
Yes.
Okay, out of no control and the circumstances beyond their control of their own making.
Uneven yoke.
Right. So, within the marriage, should amends be sought? Yes. Can they always be rectified or made right again? No.
No.
Okay. I mean, there are certain elements that can be introduced into a marriage that could just prevent that from happening. The Bible does say that adultery, okay, would be one.
Oh, yeah.
All right. There's really only two grounds for like a separation type scenario. That's death, obviously being one, and adultery. Okay. Now, can a marriage be saved after adultery? Sure. People have done it.
Yes.
Can it always be? No. Okay. Can you have a marriage where the person seeks to heal the marriage, who was the victim of the situation, and it happened again? Yes. Yeah, sure. Should the person stay in a cycle of victimization? No. Okay. So I'm just kind of getting some basics there.
You look at the Old Testament, even God modeled that when he didn't tell Israel, oh, come back, and by the way, you can keep those other idols, mounds of worship, as long as you don't worship them.
Exactly. So,
Cut it.
I mean, now, it's just very much out there. People tend to justify their own thought patterns or their own sins or their own line of thought, reasoning, whatever you want to say, in their own mind. Okay, based on absolute garbage of whatever's out in the world. Okay. Do a lot of Christians divorce these days? Yeah, unfortunately. In Christendom, absolutely. Okay, yes, it's there. Should they? No, absolutely not. There's a lot of marriages that I have seen personally, okay, that when they start to describe what was going on within the marriage, I'm thinking, that's not grounds for divorce. That's just plain outright selfishness. Okay? Because that's a lot of what you're describing right there. The other person or that person who's talking to you, or you're just selfish. Okay? You just need a good smack upside the head in a spiritual manner. I'm not saying and you need to get before God and fix it and figure it out, because that's just plain outright selfishness. And you are inflicting that on the other party. Or vice versa. I would say that's predominantly most of the case, and a lot of times. Okay, they're just not willing to bend, or not willing to work things out, or do the work that's required, and just make it happen. That's really what it is. And usually that's a direct reflection of their walk with God too. Okay, because the same pattern you're seeing within the marriage of this selfishness and this my way or the highway mentality and stuff, I guarantee that's probably the pattern they have going with God as well.
Like Sister Miller says, you only do relationships one way.
So, that's usually how it goes. So it speaks loud to it. I'm going to get off that. Move along. But yeah, so so like the overseers, deacons must have their wives and children under subjection. Having unruly, undisciplined children is often a sign of moral compromise, or at least a lack of courage in exercising loving, corrective discipline. Okay. Don't be afraid to discipline your kids. Do it within reason. Do it with love. But I'm not saying you have to explain everything to them. There's some things that you just do because you're told to do it. Okay. But for the same token, a lot of times they will just do those things that you ask them to, or require them to, without an explanation, when they have a level of respect for you as well.
Right.
Okay. So you have to work on that relationship, that level of respect. You build on it. Okay. The only way you build on it in the quiet moments, as well as the not so quiet moments. Okay. But they'll all be taken the same way, because you have that track record of consistency like that. Verse 13. The deacons who render selfless and dedicated service in the execution of their assigned duties are promised a high standing. Okay. Read the verse. For they that have used the office of deacon well purchase to themselves a good degree and great boldness in the faith which is in Jesus Christ. Or Christ Jesus, I'm sorry. Now, they will also enjoy great assurance, acquire great boldness of speech in the faith that is in Jesus Christ. All right. This boldness is the opposite of fear, reservation, or trepidation in witnessing for Jesus. The deacons will be able to conscientiously uphold the faith. Okay. So, they're able to basically speak out, okay, without any thought of reproach or anything like that. They have a clear conscience of what they're doing, okay. They can stand before anyone and witness about Jesus, and not have their credibility called into question, okay. verses 14 and 15 and 16. Okay. These things write I unto thee, hoping to come unto thee shortly. But if I tarry long, that thou mayest know how thou oughtest to behave thyself in the house of God, which is the church of the living God, the pillar and ground of the truth. And without controversy, great is the mystery of godliness. God was manifest in the flesh, justified the spirits, seen angels, preached unto the Gentiles, and believed on in the world, received up into glory. Okay. Now, in verse 14 and 15, we find that Paul planned to visit Timothy before long, but wanted him to be aware of some vital truths. All right. So that if Paul was delayed, Timothy could teach them to the saints. One important topic was the exercise of various ministries in the church, how people ought to conduct themselves in God's household. Okay. Holy living, righteous living. Verse 15 defines the house of God as the church, the buttress and bulwark of the truth, or as even the Amplified Bible that renders it, the prop and support of the truth. Now, the church is the habitation of God through the Spirit. Each individual member is metaphorically a living stone in the building in his church. All right. Each local church has in its power to support and strengthen the truth by its witness to the faith and by the lives of its members. Okay. So again, going back to that bar, okay, I'm telling you, the bar is a very important thing. You remember that bar? It will come back to a lot of things in life and in the church like that. Okay. If you walk a certain way, you set that bar at that level. Okay. You can expect people to grow, however far that distance you set. All right. It will follow you. Okay. You set a low bar, you're going to get a low life. Short expectancy too. All right. So again, it goes back to that bar. Now in verse 16, here's one of the most profound statements in the entire New Testament. Without controversy. Simply means confessedly, okay, or without question. The mystery of godliness is the entire divine scheme of redemption that was embodied in Christ. God was manifest in the flesh, and in other words, Jesus was the incarnation of the one God who had revealed himself to the Hebrew fathers. Okay? Virtually every title of God given in the Old Testament, such as Almighty, Shepherd, Judge, Savior, King, Redeemer, and Lord of Lords, is applied to Jesus in the New Testament. All right? Since the Holy Spirit was the Father of Jesus, after the flesh, Jesus was the begotten Son. You cannot have a pre-existing Jesus and be begotten at the same time. You can't do it. It totally contradicts itself. Begotten is to have a beginning. Okay? Well, if Jesus was co-existent as a separate person of the Trinity, co-eternal, you can't have begotten.
Right, exactly.
There's a beginning. And you can't be a God and have a beginning. You know what I'm saying? So it totally messes with that whole. I won't even start going into that. But
and then he just contradicted himself.
Yes.
When he said, I am the Father, I one.
So when you start really kind of throwing out those things, and Trinitarians like that, you know, and they're trying to debate you in the oneness of God, we'll say, well, how do you explain begotten? You can't be begotten if you always existed.
Exactly.
Where do you get that? Oh, in the flesh. Okay, right there, stop. Okay, you have a beginning, don't you? Okay, well, God was Holy Spirit, so.
Right.
Start tearing into that. The Bible contains no mention or concept of an eternal Son or divine Trinity. Christ's disciples in the early church taught no such theory whatsoever. They understood clearly although the incarnation will always be a mystery to the carnal mind, that the one God had made himself known in the form of a man. All right, they knew that. They understood that. The Pharisees did not want to stone Jesus for performing miracles. They did not want to stone Jesus for lots of little things that you could throw out there. The main thing they really wanted to stone Jesus for was when he said, I am. The Jews understood that there was only one God, and that he was proclaiming himself to be that one God. That's why they wanted to stone him. When he said blasphemy, that's what that was. Okay? Because he was declaring that he was God,
Right.
Almighty, in flesh, and that he was the Messiah. That's why they wanted to stone him. No other reason but that. Okay? That's what they freaked out about. Now there was no confusion created in their minds of early Christians when the Bible spoke of Christ as God. They knew that God was in Christ, reconciling the world unto himself. Okay. Modern versions replace God in this verse with he. Even if someone follows this reading, it is clear that the antecedent of he is God. Okay, they have a capital H. They don't have a small h in the it's a capital H. We know he's referring to God.
It has to be because it begins with great is the mystery of godliness. He. Obviously, it's referring back to the God of godliness.
So, it could not be Son, as Trinitarians often maintain, for Son refers to the humanity in whom God was manifested. And the term does not appear once in the entire epistle. Okay? Justified in the Spirit, Jesus was pronounced and proven justified, vindicated and endorsed, and in and by the Spirit. Now, the words flesh and spirit are set in opposition to one another. The former word refers to our Lord's life on earth as the man Christ Jesus. The latter word refers to what he, capital H, he was in his pre-incarnate state as pure spirit, as deity. Okay? Because God was spirit, always spirit, prior to the incarnation. Okay? That there was no two people, three people. There was none of that. It was just one God in spirit. That's it. Okay. And we will stop there. So we'll go to chapter 4 next week. And take a break.